Clever people, and welcome to my review for Shut In. So Shut In stars Naomi Watts and Jacob Tremblay, and it revolves around the story of Naomi Watts' character who has a paralyzed son. He's about 18, still paralyzed, and she's starting to decide whether or not she wants to let him go and let him go on to a caring home permanently, because he was in a very seriously bad car crash just about 6 months ago, leaving him paralyzed forever. So suddenly there's this giant snowstorm that's happening around them, and she begins to see visions of a patient of hers, played by Jacob Tremblay, who just keeps on coming to her and she can't really understand why. She worked for disabled kids and he was deaf, but he eventually moved away. So when he started coming back, she was a bit confused. She didn't know what was happening, and therein lie we get a horror movie. So Shut In, I had seen no marketing at all before I went into it. I hadn't seen a trailer. I barely knew the premise, so I just sort of went in completely blind. Although I wasn't expecting too much because of a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes and an F from Chris Stuckman. So I went in pretty pessimistic, and I came out not hating the movie as much as I thought I would, but still hating it, because this movie is absolutely terrible. So many horror movies today decide that they want to use fake scares instead of real scares. Have this huge build up to something scary, and then, oh, it's a raccoon, or oh, it's just somebody who's a friend that just coming up the staircase, or something stupid like that. And this movie is riddled with them. It's found throughout. Just every single scene practically has one. Every scene where something is scary, it's basically just a fake jump scare, or it's just Naomi Watts having a nightmare and not knowing what really is going on. That's practically the entire movie, which makes it so that the movie is rather boring because nothing is scary. Not a single thing in this movie is scary. I did not feel scared at all once. There was one shot that was pretty scary, which was from a staircase, but besides that, nothing else in the movie was scary. It was all incredibly boring. I was just sitting there contemplating what was really happening in the movie, not because it had a complicated plot, but because it had no plot. This movie, practically nothing is going on. It's just Naomi Watts shut in a snowstorm and she has visions of a boy. And then towards the third act of the movie, which was completely moronic, you start to realize, oh, there is something going on. But up till then, it's basically just her living her life, and it's boring. I don't go to a movie to see 2/3 of it, just somebody living their life and then having some creepy things going on. It's so moronic and dumb. And also, it's just so repetitive, the entire movie. Because the first 2/3 of the acts of the movie are basically just nothing, it feels so insanely boring because nothing's happening, and that makes it repetitive. It's just the same thing. It's the same exact thing on repeat throughout the entire movie. The acting is also incredibly lifeless. I don't know what Naomi Watts was doing here. I guess she was trying a little bit, but the script gave her nothing to do. The director didn't give her anything to do, so she just sort of had to guide herself through her character. And she just seemed bored, and honestly, she seemed very lifeless, and that's a lot of the acting in the movie. It doesn't feel real. It feels very fake and not genuine at all. There are also some therapy scenes between two characters. It's over Skype, and let me say, these are some of the worst scenes on screen this year. The dialogue in them is absolutely atrocious. It's just her talking about her nightmares, and it's so boring. It's just, oh my god, sitting through those scenes, I thought they would never end. They're probably 2 minutes long each, but they each feel like 20 minutes. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you have such a slow pace to scenes to the point that 2 minutes feels like 20. It's baffling. Also, they have, just as an example of the terrible dialogue, like Naomi Watts says, oh, we've weathered worse when it comes to the storm. Just some examples like that are throughout the movie. You constantly get lines that are exactly similar to that. Just imagine a movie like that. It's also incredibly forgettable, other than the completely moronic thing that happens in the third act, which I will be talking about towards the end of the movie, just towards the end of this review. I just don't want to give any spoilers out, but up until then, and even past then, the movie's insanely forgettable. Because of the reasons that I mentioned in the past, nothing's happening. It's riddled throughout with horror cliches. And also the third act is just filled with so many moronic, stupid things. It's insane. Just, oh, these characters think it's safe now, so they're going. Oh, but it's not really safe. Just stupid stuff like that happened throughout the third act. I honestly thought that during the third act someone wrote it when they were like drunk or something, because they're like, oh yeah, and then they decide to go out, and then they go back in, and they don't know what to do. They don't call the police. No, they're just hanging out. I mean, what were these characters doing in the third act? It was basically just them sitting in one place, maybe going out, and then just other incredibly stupid things that happen. And I'll delve in more deep into the third act towards the later half of this review, because I just want to put up a spoiler warning right now. I'm going to talk spoilers because there's so many issues in the third act that I just need to talk about spoilers starting now until the end of this review. So if you have not seen Shut In and you're planning to, I don't know why you're planning to, it's awful, then just pause the review and go and see the movie if you're planning on it, come back and watch the rest of this review, or just ignore this review altogether. So, spoiler warning. In the third act of the movie, it's revealed that the son that is paralyzed actually never was in the first place. And Naomi Watts has just been caring for him because he wanted her affection. So when this little boy that comes back that is a patient of hers, he starts to get jealous. So from there, he decides, oh, I'm going to wake up now, trap the kid in the basement, and then try to put my mom, just trap my mom, and then kill this kid, and then my mom and I can love each other forever. I have no clue what they were thinking with that twist. The doctors would have clearly been able to see that he was not paralyzed. It's not like, oh, you can go on 6 months acting like you're paralyzed and make it super believable. I have no clue what they were thinking with that twist. How did the teenage boy have the patience for that? How did the doctors not see it? How did Naomi Watts not notice it at the very least? I have no clue what they were thinking with that twist. And then continuing on with the third act, a lot of the decisions that the characters make are just stupid. What is she thinking? Going out of the closet thing when it's clearly not safe? Sure, the teenage boy would have eventually found him, but apparently the guy had called the police, which, by the way, never show up. The one therapy guy that comes all the way out. I don't know how they were so close together. I guess that's just convenient. But, so apparently he called the police, who never come. I mean, it must have been 30 minutes and the police still don't come. The police are not that slow. Even then, she should have just waited for them to come so that she wouldn't have to stay in the closet. But oh no, she decides, oh, it's safe now, so I'm going to try to take the little boy out. I have no clue what they were thinking with that. Also, the little boy, how does she have such a great connection with this little boy? I understand. The little boy represents the innocence and the childhood of what the paralyzed boy used to be before he got all moody and before he got in the giant car crash, which also he suffered no damage from. So, how does she have that deep of a connection? She treated him for, on screen, what was about 2 minutes, and we're supposed to believe that they have such a strong connection that she'll kill her own son in order to try to be with him? The third act must have been written by somebody who doesn't know how to write, because it was absolutely terrible and moronic. Although I do have to say it was kind of cool seeing a lot of homages to classic horror films in that third act. They had, similar to The Shining, the stepping back on the ice tracks. They had, the main theme of a boy loving his mother from Psycho. And they have Halloween, where two characters are stuck in I think it's a cupboard or something, and it's got the lines through it. So they did have a few homages to classic horror movies. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I went on to realizing how terrible this movie was. I'm going to have to give Shut In about a 3 out of 10. One of the worst movies of the year. Probably, it's shocking that this movie actually probably wouldn't be in the bottom 10. I mean, this is how bad of a year we've had. We've had terrible movies throughout. Maybe it's in the bottom of the 10, but I don't know. So that concludes my review for Shut In. If you did see the movie, I'm so sorry. Comment below what you thought. I am Robert Burke, and this has been The Clever Critics. Goodbye.